Next up, we have James Smith from the Ethereum Foundation, and he's going to talk about stop trying to be too funky with your LSTs. So focus on the basics. Welcome.
Everybody, thanks for coming today. It feels very official behind here. I don't know why. It's like a strange thing. Oh, I should caveat, these are just my opinions and nobody else's. So disclaimer out of the way. You can now lock the doors. You're trapped in here with me. The case against LSDs is quite spicy. But I want to delve into a subject today that I believe is widely ignored by lots of projects building in the space as well. Because what I'm going to say, I think, is quite obvious and quite easy to understand, but very hard to execute on. What do I mean by that? I think that I would phrase it, is your attention being misdirected around your LSD strategy when there's lots of other things you could do to fight? And are you playing the right fight? So let's have a rethink. Newer staking pools can't match bigger liquidity's power. If I was to put it, I think I did some maths on the back of paper. You're going to need around 750 million in liquidity incentives to compete with the big liquidity players. And these big staking pools, their revenue is about 20-25 million a year. Nobody is going to invest in that much liquidity to get that business. So it's a fight you can't have at the moment, is my opinion. There's a couple of major players dominating the market. Many new pools are focused on LSD setups. I took these off of a quick search, and I have to ask the question, do your users really care about your strategy? And I want to look at some of the data and some of the approaches. I speak to a lot of staking pools, a lot of node operators, and one of the biggest things is that none of them are talking to any users out there. None of them are trying to understand how they want to interact with it. And I think it's very easy for us to live in a bubble where if we don't go out and talk to people, we don't understand what their needs are. So what are users actually doing? You've got 224 users buying less than $1,000. I don't know who's putting $1 into Lido. Maybe that's just a test or something, but there's 19,000 of them. You've got 125,000 users staking between 1,000 and 32. And I appreciate the third one is a wide bracket of 32K to 1 million. However, that's 3 different conversations you're having. You can't talk the same. Somebody with $6 million and somebody with $60, it's a different conversation you need to have. And as a staking pool, I don't see anybody having different conversations. I don't see anybody sticking out to an audience and really representing them. On exchanges, the average deposit is $600. I think that 98% of staked ETH belongs to 1% of people, and everybody else is staking $600. This is just some examples of your staking pool setup. Deposit queue is full, please try later. We all know who that is. If you look at stETH usage, everyone's talking about their liquid staking strategy, and I talked to Jordan, the Stakewise, about this. 65% of users do nothing with their stETH. They get it, and it sits in their wallet. And everyone is obsessed about their liquid staking strategy. 7 out of 10 people don't do anything with their liquid staking token afterwards. So you need to think that through of what you're building for. Liquid staking tokens also can really confuse. Many people in this room have 8 hours a day to go and look at their liquid staking strategy. Many other people outside of this room do not have that time or luxury. So thinking these things through, I think, is super important. Which user does your staking offer speak to? This is just another really good example of user segmentation. Plankton, Krill, who are you talking to? What's the makeup here? If you look at active wallets, you can see that staking is really sticky. How much is that worth getting into your staking pool? Because once somebody puts it in there, it's like moving bank accounts. Nobody leaves the bank account. Nobody leaves that staking pool, which is why I'll discuss vampire attacks and their potential success. This is an example I just made up. None of this is real. But this is the type of thing I think you need to be obsessed about. You need to be obsessed about answering this question, and it's not an easy question to answer. You need to be having a very different fight. Are you listening to users? Are you asking these types of questions? Where are you talking to them? Which channels do they live in? Because if you're on Twitter, if you're on Reddit, there's a different breed of user everywhere else. And I talk to staking pools, node operators a lot, and I see a lot of people are not thinking of new channels to explore. I've spoken to some really big media outlets, and I say, has anybody approached you about your staking offering? Not a single person has approached them at all, and they have access to many users. Oh. So where can you compete? I've got some examples. This talk is designed to give you some inspiration and creativity to think where can you win. If I think about it from another perspective, everybody classifies liquid staking tokens in staked ETH numbers. So it's always the same players at the top. If you broke it down into number of nodes, there would be a different list coming out as well. So you can really have a different conversation. But Kiln is a really good example. They integrated with Ledger. They have no liquid staking token. They got 250,000 ETH deposited in their first 7 weeks of being integrated with Ledger. That was a smarter move than a liquid staking strategy. Exchanges, Coinbase are charging 25%, and you can maybe get away with 10% on-chain. And they had no LST, and they became the second. Why? Because they have the user access right there. Frax Finance is a really good niche example. They had 3 different liquid staking tokens which appealed to a certain makeup of investor, and they captured that market. Whether they'll grow past that is left to be seen, but they really appealed to a certain market, and they grew quickly. You can compete with communities as well. There's lots of strong communities in staking pools, but there's many other areas to go. This is EigenLayer. This is to give you an example. If you have a new appealing feature, there is definitely the audience and the money and the will there as well. They were open for 2 hours, and I think if they were classified as a staking pool, they would be number 5, which in 120 minutes is not bad going. Vampire attacks, have they been successful? Yes, I'm looking at you, Diva. I think, I'd use a German word, Jein, yes and no. Really good for PR, really good for marketing purposes, but have they actually been successful? Are they sticky? Are they people who are just chasing a yield and then they're going to pull it out? We do not know these answers, but if I look at airdrops, sorry, the slides got a bit messed up, you have a 60 to 80% churn after 4 months on airdrops as well. So it does create some hype, it does create some marketing. I don't know the cost of that to you. This is another question. Should your goal to be finding new deposits, or should you be trying to find users to switch? Are you going to pay their gas fees? If the average person is paying $600 on an exchange, how are you going to get them to come to your staking pool is what you need to think through. That's it. If you have any questions about that, but I really think you need to think more obsessively about that question of what fight are you having, and where are the users, and where can you access them.
More questions?
So speaking of users who have their staking token and doing nothing with it, why do they need to do something with it? That's part of the strategy that maybe you're employing, but why?
Well, they don't necessarily need to do anything with it, but your staking pool doesn't necessarily need a liquid staking token. Stakewise were giving me the example, it's optional, so you can actually save money. So if you don't have if you don't want it, you don't have to take it, and then cost you money. So what's the point in having a liquid staking token if you just get it and sit in your wallet? You might as well just solo stake or not have one, and then that frees up how many resources in a team to go and explore other avenues you can go down. That's my idea behind it.
Other questions?
Little question. How do you see the adoption of layer 1 LSTs on layer 2s? Because there's a number of questions there of whether there's a canonical version of it, or what trust assumptions are we using when we cross those bridges, or is there even enough demand on these layer 2s?
Are you talking about on EigenLayer or moving to...
Moving layer 1 LSTs to layer 2s. Because you were mentioning gas fees, for example, could be like a kind of barrier to entry. So do you see a lot of people migrating to layer 2s to get stake yield?
I think they could potentially. At the moment, you don't see a lot of it because there's some trust assumptions on layer 2 to actually move those across. But if there's a good yield and good use case, I think that could be. I almost certainly think it'll be something that will develop over time. So I definitely see it being something that will happen in the long term. All right, thanks, guys.
Yep. We have a small break now, and we'll see each other in 40 minutes.